start today with scrunching up the band. And really, I want you to really scrunch it up in your hands because we're going to look at grip strength. So imagining that this band is a piece of cloth maybe or something, and it's got water in it, and you're trying to squeeze it out. So I'm just going to come a little bit closer to the camera, and I'm using my fingers and my hands to really squeeze, and it's quite hard work. We're looking at our grip strength, something that gets worse as we get older, but mainly because we don't really train it. So let's have a little look at just trying to make a bit of a change here. And I'm just using the sponginess of the band, which feels quite, it's quite strong. Notice as you're doing this whether you're feeling any muscle activation, if the wrist or anything is getting a little bit warm. So I feel a little bit in the base of my thumb, a bit on the forearm, both sides. And then really try and squeeze together and hold it for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And then change your grip around. Go again. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. 2 more. Scrunching, squeezing, almost twisting a little bit. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Changing one more time. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And then releasing. Place the whole of the band, still scrunched up, in your non-dominant hand. So I'm right-handed, so I'm going to put it in my left hand. And at this stage, you're just going to really squeeze. And I would like for there to be a white knuckle ride going on your knuckles. So if I make a soft fist with the other hand, hopefully you should notice that that hand is I'm gripping much more tightly, and carry on gripping as much as possible. And then we're just going to take a relaxed shoulder roll. Notice as soon as you start to do something else that actually the grip will lessen, but try and keep it going. Then change the direction of your shoulder roll. Then I'm going to turn sideways. We're going to take a relaxed, very relaxed, big circle of the arms. And something else that we're going to think about in this class today is this rotation around our spine being in the centre. Notice as you take this rotation, and same thing happens when the arm comes forwards, up and over. Notice that the shoulders open up, the hip opens up, and the ankle rotates. All of that going on. And then I'm just going to hold that there. I'm going to grip for a little bit longer for 10 this time. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then release. Ooh, okay, got some nice work going on there. Some juices, healing juices, motion is lotion. Some, healing juices, blood flow, everything going on. And then I'm doing some sea anemones, but I'm working quite hard, and it's actually quite a little bit uncomfortable almost. Then swapping over to your handedness side. So scrunching that one up as much as you can. Think about the white knuckle ride. Just testing mine, showing you in the camera. So squeezing that there. Try and keep that squeeze. So this is my handedness side, so this hand might be a little bit stronger. Then I'm just going to take some shoulder rolls. So talking about the principle I was just talking about of the rotation around the spine, notice when you're doing your shoulder, change direction, that you don't need to have that rotation. But when you change the movement to taking the whole arm up and back, in order to make it comfortable, because we haven't even warmed up yet, we're still warming the body up, getting prepared for exercise, but notice how shoulder, hip and the ankles join in to make that a comfortable movement. Otherwise it would just feel very clunky, very fixed, very stretchy in all the wrong places. And finishing up with one last squeeze on this same hand. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and release, and do some sea anemones again. And now it's feeling all nice and warm down the forearms, in the wrist joint a little bit, but my wrists are pretty good actually. And then we're going to open the band out and just noticing the stretch and the give in the band. So a single band has got a bit stuck together now after all that scrunching. So I'm going to keep my arms quite straight. I'm going to stretch the band out, starting nice and low. And again, I'm noticing, depending on where I put my hands on the band, if I have my hands quite close together, the stretch is quite tough. If I'm opening out to stretch across my chest, if I go a little bit further out, then I've got more give, more to play with. So gradually, starting from low, gradually lifting up. I'm going to go a bit in between those 2 points this time. Lifting up opposite the chest, lifting up a little bit higher, up above the head. Maybe if that's comfortable, you could stretch the band back behind you. Just thinking, noticing, how does it feel on your arms, your shoulders? Where are you noticing it? Where are you noticing any stress? And trying to keep those wrists quite straight as well. And a relaxed fist, but a firm grip on the band. Let's take the band behind your back, hands facing backwards. Palms facing backwards, quite close to your butt to start with, and notice that there's not a great deal of movement here, lifting the band out to the side. Now I'm going to turn my palms sideways. I'm going to open out the hands a little bit more, and now I can lift my arms up quite high. Thinking about the different muscles that I'm activating, I'm more aware, so I'm now thinking about, I'm noticing the top of my shoulders, but that might be cumulative from all the things we've done so far. But I'm also feeling more activation of the muscles in my back, my lats and things like that. So just really just switching into that stretch in the band. Perfect, let's carry on warming up. So you know how much give you've got in your band now. So let's take a 90-degree angle. I'm going to step back a little bit. And then we're just circling around. Mobilising the rib cage, the shoulders again. Not taking that side arm too low, and if you're worried about being slapped in the face with the end of your band, if it's as long as mine, go a little bit faster. And then changing direction again, and this time maybe bend your knees and maybe add a little bit more movement in that upper body, maybe in the hips as well. Oh, and that feels quite nice. Great job. Okay, shoulders and arms a little bit warmer now. Taking the band up to the ceiling, I'm going to show you sideways on. So we're looking up to the ceiling, we're looking up at the band. Feet are nice and wide, almost as wide as my yoga mat. I'm going to drop the band, I'm going to bring the band down past my nose, round my back, go all the way down to the floor, bending the knees, head is hanging. Then I'm going to lead with my head to come up, sort of like a squat stroke. Imagine you're doing a deadlift almost here. Slide the band up your shins to your knees, so you come into this position. From there, reach the band forwards and up to stand up, and then go again. So let's do about 5 or 6 of those. So looking up, it's just a great big body movement. Lead with the head, slide up the shins, then bring the band forwards and up, and look up. Roll down, round the back, lead with the head, bring the band up, sweep it forwards, looking up. You could maybe even go back a little bit if you fancied that. Reach forwards, that band will naturally, if you keep your hands on your feet to start with, the band will naturally just slide up your legs as you come up. One more for luck. I'm going to go back a little bit. Rounding the back, lift the chest, stick the bottom out, reach those arms forwards and come up to the top. Great job. Okay, we are going to look at mobilising the spine. Mobilising the spine, just one side of the spine, and we're going to start at the shoulder, then think about the hip, and lastly think about the ankles, but trying to get that rotation that we were looking at just now. So from the front, Feet sort of just maybe slightly wider than hip width apart. I'm just going to take my arms. I'm going to take my arms to the same side repeatedly. So I'm stretching the band out, double band still, quite relaxed, but I'm just opening it out a little bit. So there's a little bit of activation around the shoulder blades at the back, but the whole of the arm is moving, but the rest of my body isn't. So if I go sideways to the camera, you will notice that my shoulder and my hip aren't moving at all. My body's staying really still. Then we're going to take that same movement to the same side, but instead of moving the arms independently of the rest of the body, we're just going to move from here, from this lower band on my t-shirt, so around your lower ribs. We're going to fix the upper body. You're going to pull the shoulder back, take your head with you, and just rotate that top section, like it's a jam jar lid. And again, if I go sideways on, notice my hip stays still. I'm turning towards my right side, so I'm actively pushing my right hip forwards. Taking my head with me as well. Taking my head, keeping my head in the centre. Pulling that right shoulder back because I'm going to my right side. Coming back to the centre each time. Great. Adding on to that, we're going to take the hips with us as well. But this time I don't want you to let your feet change. So shoulder and hips, and then once your hip has gone back, rolled back a little bit in that same direction, notice that your ankles will want to roll over. Try and keep your feet facing forwards, and it's quite a twisting feeling, and then back to centre. Shoulder, hip, but feet face forwards. And notice how now I can go even further with my upper body. Shoulder, hip, feet stay facing forwards, and then back to the centre. Quite hard work. Let's go to the other side. Arms only. Just the arms. Reaching them across from side to side. Keep them fairly straight. This one will want to bend a little bit, but keep them fairly straight. From the side. Notice my shoulder, my hip, my body isn't moving at all. But the arm, especially this side arm, that can go all the way across to 90 degrees if you like. Now I'm going to fix from my lower ribs down. I'm going to fix that part still. I'm going to move the top independently. This should feel very twisty around the ribs and back to the centre. Pulling the shoulder back. I'm actively pushing this hip forwards. I'm just checking in my screen. Even if I go a little way, I can see it in the screen. So pushing that hip forwards, keeping the head in the middle, keeping the arms at the same distance apart, stretching out. One more there. Next one, shoulders and hips, but trying to keep the feet facing forwards, back to the centre. Shoulders, hips, feet facing forwards. Just let me do a couple facing forwards with this one. Going the same way. Shoulders, hips, feet facing forwards. I feel almost like I'm trying to keep my knees forwards. It's quite difficult, and I'm going much further round now. All the way, hips, and yeah, feels very twisty. Now, feet wide. Now we're going to just let the arms and the shoulders and the hips and the ankles. So notice the difference in the feet here. Keep the band stretching out a little bit, keep it quite low, keep the head facing forwards to start with. So now just rolling from side to side, rotating around that central line. And hopefully this should feel quite nice. It definitely feels nice for me to be able to allow my ankles to join in. And it might look like it, but might look like I'm rocking from side to side, but I'm keeping my weight in the middle. The final part of this is to turn your head and look behind you. And if you've got an interesting wall or interesting stuff behind you rather than my plain blank white wall, notice if you can see more in one direction and the other direction, and then the side, one side would be a little bit tighter, maybe go a little bit more to that side. Okay, brilliant. We are moving on to keeping our double band and taking it behind your bottom. So the backs of the hands and stretching it out again. And then we're going to bring our feet into a parallel position. So the arms, what's going on with the arms is you're stretching the band apart a little bit, you're opening up your collarbone, almost like a military stance, a little bit. And then from there we're going to bring the legs into turnout. So from your parallel position, you're lifting your heels up, turning the legs out in the hip socket, lowering the heels, lifting the heels up, releasing the legs, coming back to parallel in the hip socket. You need to find where your perfect distance apart here is. If you're too close together, like I am now, there's no turnout, there's basically nowhere to go. If you're too far apart, you won't get your heels together. So find that distance and then stay there, get those shoulders open, send your tailbone down a little bit. If you're a bit like me, I like the old gymnast pose of that lower back overarching. So send your tailbone down. And then from our feet, wherever they were, yeah, wherever you decided that is, open up the collarbone, stretch the band out a little bit, up onto the balls of the feet, just slightly. If you've got bare feet and you're on a yoga mat like I am, it's a little bit sticky, but try and go with it. We're aiming, and then release again, a couple more times. We're aiming to turn the leg out in the hip socket, as opposed to turning the leg out at the ankle or the knees maybe, and it's not a true turnout. This is switching on the right muscles. So let's finish off here. Have a little look down. Ideally heels together if you can, otherwise calves together. Make sure your knees aren't vying for position, one wanting to be in front of the other. Push the backs of the knees together. Lift the pelvic floor. Hopefully you'll feel already that the pelvic floor is activated. Gluteal fold is activated, the crease of your bottom at the back. Shoulders nice and open, send that tailbone down. Then we're going to keep the heels together. If they are together, they might not be together, but if the heels aren't together, keep your calves together, but keep the lower leg glued together and try and rise up. You won't come up very high. So sometimes in class we do a full rise all the way up, and then notice pretty much the whole of my legs have come apart. But today I want to try and keep all of my legs together, including the heels, and that makes a big difference. Hopefully you should be feeling some love around the pelvic floor, that whole area. Gluteal fold, as I said, your turnout muscles, your deep lower abdominal muscles, all around that pelvic sling. Muscles that we don't use very much and we don't train them enough really. Okay, let's stay up if you can. If this is too much on your balance, keep your heels down. And then we're bending the knees. Knees are staying over the toes. My big toe joint and my little toe joint are equally weighted. It's easy to roll forwards a little bit with this. Pin those knees back, and then we're straightening the legs and lowering the heels. Think about those arms a moment. Send your arms down and out a little bit. Lifting up, keeping the heels together, bending the knees, straightening the legs and lowering. This is the point where you wish you'd pulled your leggings up slightly before you started, but never mind. Knees are over the toes, straighten. Every time you straighten your legs, even if your heels are down throughout this exercise, feel that pelvic floor switching on a little bit, kicking in almost. Good. One more of those. Come up with the heels if you can. We're going to take 10 little pulses. We're going to start with the knees open. 10 pulses really quite fast. So from here, straightening the legs. Go 10 and 9 and 8 and 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hold it there, hover a moment. Feel that pelvic floor lifting and squeezing, and then lower the heels if you didn't already have them down. And release the legs and release the band. Well done. Give the legs a bit of a shake. Wonderful. And now's the time to pull the leggings up. but try and do that before you start that exercise next time. Let's do some static lunges. Again, double band, using a lot of the double band today, stretching it out slightly. Set yourself up really well with this. So one leg in front, one leg behind, your body in the middle. Two straight legs if you can. So ideally your legs are creating like a capital A. Hips and shoulders square to your front. The band stretched apart a little bit. Open up that collarbone. You're dipping your back knee down towards the floor, raising the band up and then straightening both legs. Keeping the body really nice and upright. This is really strong. If that's too much for you today, lose the band. You could use a bit of support, the back of a chair or a wall. You don't need to bend all the way down. I'm doing the advanced version, so my back knee is just brushing the mat. I'm not putting any weight on it. But actually all I really would like is for you to bend both knees equally. And especially straighten the legs when you come up. Fully straighten the legs. I can relax that back heel a little bit actually. And no pitching forwards or backwards with your upper body. Stretching the band out a little bit. Great job. So think about your front leg. We're going to stay down, we're going to hold it here. This is very strong. Again, if you want to, just stay here in this static stretch. Tuck your pelvis under, get that nice hip flexor stretch. Otherwise, think about your front leg. Open up your band to single width or whatever. Stretch it out. I can't do this because of the walls here, but stretching it out sideways, and then we're going to turn towards that front leg. So my hands are level with each other, they're stretched across my shoulders. This is very strong. Holding it there for 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hand up, relax. All the sound effects today. Great, let's do all of that on the other side. So stepping back, nice wide position, back to a double band, back to stretching the band out, keeping the arms fairly straight. Make sure your weight is in the middle, bending that back knee so you're brushing it down to the floor. So the perfect test for the correct position for the full advanced version of your static lunge is to drop that back knee down on the floor. 90 degrees with the legs, then straighten the legs. Okay, so here we go. Back heel relaxed a little bit, hips and shoulders forwards, dropping that back knee down and lowering the arms. So raising the arms up, trying to straighten the legs. Tough work on that back toe, the back toe joints, the big toe especially. So again, if that's not available for you to go so low, just bend the knees slightly. I feel like my mat is stretching apart slightly. Spine is staying upright. There's no change. If you were just to watch my upper body, hopefully it's just going straight down and straight up. Fully straightening the legs at the top. Pull those thighs up. Get those legs straight. Let's do 2 more. Staying down this time. Tuck that pelvis under slightly. Strong old stretch on the back leg. Stretch the band out. If you can, stretch it out across your chest first of all. I can't again because I'm next to the wall. And then let's turn towards that front leg. Make sure that front knee's over your toes. Hips are square. Hips and legs are square to the front. And the upper body is turned all the way around. So I'm running along the length of my yoga mat. It's strong. Hold it 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and ha-ba-ba. Oh, give those legs a bit of a shake. Well done if you stuck with me there. Perfect. Okay, we're coming down to the floor. We're going to be seated on our bottoms on the floor with the legs out in front of you when we get there. So we don't need our band for this first exercise. What we do need is to be sitting as upright as possible. Just put the band over there a moment. So sitting right up on those sit bones and having a little rock from side to side. Keeping the spine in its natural curves, shoulders and ribs over and above the hips, bending the knees and flexing the feet. So this should be hopefully be quite comfortable to be able to sit as upright as you can here. Legs are bent, I'm flexing my feet and I feel like I'm digging my heels into the floor a little bit. And then I'm just going to take my hands behind me and sort of stick my chest out a little bit. Fingers are facing behind me, thumbs are facing forwards, and I'm over exaggerating this this spine position, if you like. I feel like I'm the figurehead of a boat today. the good ship, Mandy. Anyway, from here we're going to work our ankles. So you're going ankles and feet. You're going to extend your ankles, and as you do that, so just do this movement first of all. As you do that, your legs will straighten, but don't think about the legs, just think about your heels staying in the same place. And if you've got a nice yoga mat and bare feet, it's quite nice because it sort of they stick in the same place. So I'm extending my ankle joint, the top of my ankle, as much as I can. Here it was flexed as much as possible, and then this is extended as much as possible. Then I'm going to, and I'm leaving my toes behind at the moment. Then I'm going to point my toes, and I'm going to keep, it's quite crampy. I'm going to keep my toes scrunched as I bring the feet back. Release the toes at the top. So ankles, toes, stay scrunched to pull back. Ankles, toes, stay scrunched. Ankles, toes, stay scrunched. This is strong. Strong on the feet, strong on the ankles. Potentially very cramp inducing. Try and work through it. My right foot almost went into cramp and it's just easing out as I'm doing this. But again, the same as we did with the fist, the grip work at the beginning, scrunching up that band, it's so important to get all the muscles underneath our feet strong and awake, so they can support the foot, so they can support your weight every day when you're walking around, basically. If you can, try one at a time. So one goes down as the other pulls back. When I do this, I focus more, she says, I focus more on the one that's scrunching back, but it's quite hard. Good, so there's sort of pedaling action going on. Brilliant, okay. And this time, lean back, have a good old collapse. Lean back on those arms, let the ribcage wall drop down, open up the legs almost as wide as your yoga mat, and just let your legs roll from side to side. You have to put them that way, but go out as far as you can in quite a relaxed manner and roll them in as much as possible. So we're moving the leg in the hip socket, in the pelvis. And now let's turn this into a proper Pilates exercise as opposed to just a lying, just flopping the legs around. So sitting up really nice and tall. Let's flex the feet to start with. So back into that same position. Flex the feet, turn the legs out, point the feet, straighten the legs, roll the toes in. So turning in, turning out fully. Point the feet, roll in, turning out. So two areas that we're trying to get as much movement as possible, the ankle and the hip joint. Both really complicated joints, and we're lifting the ribcage out of the hips and then change direction. Good work. Hopefully that will feel quite nice. Brilliant. Oh, it's messed my mat up slightly. Okay, fantastic. We are coming onto all fours with the band behind your back. This is a slightly awkward position to get the band into, but once you work out how to do it, it's quite effective because we're thinking about the contact of the band with the shoulder blades. So I tend to make sure the band is nice and flat. I hold my hands out quite wide. I've got fingertip and thumb. It's like it's a dirty rag. I'm just about to go into a ballet position. Yeah, holding it there, out there, and then I make sure it's flat against my ribs, and I can feel that contact, and then sort of underneath my armpits, and then just coming into your classic all fours square box position, so knees underneath the hips, hands underneath the shoulders. As we've been doing recently, push the hands out towards those little fingers, which will bring your upper body into the perfect position. So I'm really lifted, shoulder blades are nice and flat against the ribcage wall, and I can feel that contact with the band. It feels quite nice. So I'm pushing my hands out towards my little finger side, feeling like I'm trying to split the mat in two down the middle. Then I'm going to relax that, and I'm going to allow my ribcage and my head to drop down between my arms. I'm keeping my arms straight. They're not locked out, but they are straight. I've relaxed that push out. Then in order to lift my ribcage back up, I'm going to push out again. And the head and the neck are just going along for the ride. Relax, drop down, push out, lift up, and feel like you're stretching into that band. So I can feel the band relaxing. It's there, I can still feel the contact, but there's no resistance there. Then I'm pushing out and up. So that extra resistance in the band is helping with just really fires up the muscles to really know what you're after. Helps to just focus the brain on exactly the right muscles. Noticing that my hips don't really change, nothing else is moving. As that rib cage drops down, the shoulder blades just slide together. I'm not forcing them together, but I do actually feel them touch because my rib cage has left a bit of a gap, and the shoulder blades just slide towards each other just to close that gap, a little bit like sliding doors. And then lift up one last time and relax and give wrists a little twiddle again. Wonderful. We are going to lie on our backs. So lying on our backs, we're going to place the feet in the band. In fact, I'm going to show you how to get into the right position, facing my feet this way, just to, it's a little bit easier. So we're sort of repeating the exercise we did standing up with the feet in turnout, the legs in turnout. So you're going to come into this frog position. Feet flat, the band flat, roughly in the middle, heels together. So you can see my legs are turned out, my legs are bent, my knees are coming in towards my shoulders, heels are together, toes are apart. I want all of my toes in the band. Then I'm going to cross the band over and tuck my elbows into the floor and by my sides. And then I'm going to keep my hands really still. The movement, so hands and arms stay really still. The movement is to straighten the legs, pushing the backs of the knees together, working down the inside seam of both legs, straightening out the legs. Notice my hands aren't moving. So that's from square on. Here's the angle that you go to when you're stretching the legs out. So get yourself into that position. The idea is for the legs, lower back can be tucked under a little bit, it's absolutely fine. Try not to take the legs straight up to the ceiling. 90 degrees doesn't really work. Go aim more for where the ceiling and the wall meet. Draw those knees in all the way. The key thing here, maybe go a little bit lower if you're feeling strong enough. The key thing here is to keep those hands still. So hands, arms, open up the shoulders a little bit. If you feel like your lower back is arching and you haven't got the strength to stay strong in the centre when you straighten out those legs, definitely take them higher up. Keep imprinting in that lower back. Squeeze the backs of the knees together. Activate that pelvic floor. It's quite strong work on the legs. Wonderful. Okay. Unravel the band. Keep one leg in the band. Pop the other foot down onto the floor. We're going to cross the band over just at your ankle. Again, make sure all your toes are in the band. A little bit of 1 centimetre of band poking out the top of your, above your big toe joint, or whatever your longest toe is. Spine nicely in neutral. Crossing the band over around the front of your foot. Again, bringing these arms down, gluing them to the floor, gluing the elbows to the floor, opening up the collarbone, pushing the backs of the shoulders into the mat a little bit. Now I want this top leg to be really straight. It doesn't have to be 90. I can do 90 because I've got good hamstring length, but you might be a little bit further away. That's absolutely fine. Pelvis nice and straight, and then we're going to point the foot and flex the foot. And a bit like the one we just did seated earlier, try and extend the ankle first, then the toes, and then toes pull back first, then you flex the foot. The reason I want a straight leg here, I'm going to have to go up a little bit higher, is because I really want you to feel that stretch through the back of the knee and the calf, especially when you do the flex foot. Good. Make sure your foot's wrapped up nicely in the band. Now keep that leg really still. Have quite a lot of tension on the band, so you might want to take your hands a little bit closer to the foot. Then keep them still. Circle the foot in the band. This feels lovely on your whole of your foot. All of the muscles all the way round in my circle are getting a wonderful stretch against that resistance in the band, making them stronger, firing them up, both directions, till the point where your ankle aches a little bit. Okay, moving on from here. Again, hands stay still. This time I've taken my hands tiny bit wider, maybe my hands are shoulder width apart. There are 3 positions on this next exercise. You bend the knee, so you drop your foot down, but you don't let the shape of your lower back change. You straighten the leg along the floor, towards the floor, sort of halfway between the two, and then you lift the leg, the straight leg up, until you find your biting point for your hamstring stretch. You do not let that leg bend at this stage. Then you drop the foot down to start again. Think about the shape of your lower back. Extend the leg. This is the point where there's loads of stretch in the band. It's really quite strong. Lift the leg up. Find your biting point. Think about the shape of your lower back. If anything, I'm slightly tweaking the stretch here by overarching very slightly my lower back. Drop the foot down, extend out. Use that lovely stretch in the band to help you stretch the hamstrings. We're working on our grip strength all the way through this class. It's very tempting here to let the hands go with the leg. Don't let that happen. Use the stretch in the band, lifting up. So my bands are really quite, they're medium strength, but they're quite strong. You need a decent amount of resistance here. Good, let's keep the leg up at the top. Maybe let it go a little bit. Slide the other leg away along the floor, flex that foot, and now we're going to swing this leg. In fact, now I want my hands closer together. Swing this leg from side to side across your midline of your body, so across your midline, but keep the same hip on the floor if you can. Open it out away from your midline, keep the other hip on the floor. The leg will go further out to the side than it will go across, but that's fine. Breathe. Keeping the hands still, exactly the same as before. Using the give in the band. And then we're going to stay all the way over to one side. You're going to curl your foot around so that my little toe side of my foot is sort of up to the ceiling. It's like a bit like a martial arts sideways kick, turned in kick, where you're wanting to use that side of your foot, the little toe side of the edge of your foot. The sole of my foot is facing away, facing that, and we're holding that there. I'm going to push the opposite elbow into the floor, which will help me push the same side hip back into the floor. And then I'm getting a really strong stretch down the outside seam, your IT band, of that top leg. It's not pleasant. It's not meant to be pleasant. It's a very fibrous area. There's not much give in it. That's why it's not very comfortable. And then let's just release that. Keep that leg fairly straight, or at least fixed in a position, and just let the band help you to get some freedom in that hip joint and take some nice big circles. Big circles, small circles, bit of a combination of both. Change direction, allow your hips to move a little bit if that feels good for you. Allow your hands to move a little bit. But the more tension you've got in the band, the more you can rely on the band. That feels so nice to be able to just relax your leg and let it go without placing it by using your muscles. Wonderful. We've got all of that to do on the other side. So we open up the band, get it nice and flat, swap your feet over, pop the other one in the band, make sure there's that amount of band over the top of your toes, cross it over quite tightly at the ankle, other foot in the floor, your spine in neutral, holding onto the band quite high up, tuck those elbows in, keep your hands and your lower arm really still. Also try and keep your wrists quite straight, and we're flexing and pointing, extending, pointing the toes, peeling the toes back, pushing that heel up. So this leg needs to be straight. It doesn't matter if it's out here, more of a 45 degrees, but really straight. Both sides of your hips equally weighted. Open up those shoulders. Just notice I've got a little bit round shouldered. Pin the backs of your shoulders into the floor a little bit. And then we're going for some circles. Making sure that the toes stay wrapped up in the band. Lots of lovely resistance. So the leg stays still. Foot circles around, pulling away from that stretch in the band, both directions, moving that ankle all around. And actually, as I'm just lifting my head up, my shin, the muscles on either side of my calf are having a little bit of load of movement going on there. So this is changing the whole shape of my calf as I'm doing this. Check yours out, maybe it's doing the same. Oof, what's next? Okay, we're bending the knee, we're dropping the foot down, but we're not letting that knee come in so far that the lower back tucks under. So just good neutral, keep those hands really still as you stretch away, beautiful straight leg, lift that beautiful straight leg, keep the lower back in its neutral position. Drop the foot down, straighten the leg, resist with those hands, resist the urge to let your hands follow that leg as it straightens. Think about both sides of your pelvis as they are in contact with the mat. No lifting up, no changing on this side. Tweak that hamstring stretch at the top. Arch that lower back a little bit. One more. Wonderful. Straighten the other leg along the floor, flexing that foot just to keep it nice and straight and strong. Release the band a little bit and then bring your hands closer together. So the reason we're releasing the band a little bit is because there's not much movement here. Not as much as we've had. I can feel my elbow lifting off the floor actually. So I'm trying to glue my hips to the floor. Both sides. And then holding that stretch across the body. Turning the side of that foot. So you're turning the sole of your foot, I'm turning the sole of my foot towards the camera. That little toe side edge, that's the foot that's the side of my foot that's level with the ceiling, sort of. Pushing the opposite elbow in, which pushes my same side hip into the mat. And then trying to ease that leg across a little bit more. It's not comfortable. And breathe. Use a bit of the stretch in the band, a bit of the give in the band to just move around slightly. Great job. Release. Come back to the centre. Keeping that leg straight, or if not straight, so the leg can be slightly bent. But focus on the movement in the hip socket. Changing direction. The more tension you've got in the band, the more you can relax the leg and let the band do the work. Especially when you go out, when you go lower and when you go out to the side. Should feel quite nice. Changing direction. Allow your hips to roll a little bit as well. Just lubricating everything. Well done. Taking the band out. So we're going to do some abdominals, quite tough abdominals, using the band. We're folding the band in half. And then we're folding it in half again. And this is the only time with my band work where you do really need it to be nice and flat and the ends level with each other. So folding it in half and half again, so we're quadrupling the band. And then we're going to place the band, and if your band isn't long enough for this, it would the abdominal work would be the same, but not quite, if you just interlace your hands and have your hands at the back of the head. But that's where we would normally work for our abdominal work. That's where my hands are interlaced, my fingers are interlaced, that's where you're going to place the band. So you're holding the band with your thumbs up in the air as if you're reading a newspaper. That's going to go around the back of your head. Don't change the grip at all. So keep your thumbs sort of facing your thumbs down to towards your collarbone. We're lying down on our backs. And the most important part of this is that the elbows stay forwards. And I'm just going to show you again from here. So feet and knees, we'll start with the knees squeezed together, toes squeezed together, push the heels out a little bit. We're going to start with some abdominal curls. I want your elbows quite close together, but don't wrap the band around your ears sort of thing, so it's right over here. Once we've done some plain abdominal curls coming up in the middle, we're going to go off on a diagonal. My focus here is this top elbow is reaching up to where the ceiling and the wall meet. And then we're coming down in the middle and then we're rolling across the other side. It's not this. It's not rolling across sideways. It's peeling and lifting and rotating and keeping those hips absolutely still. Okay, here we go. So let's just take some plain ones in the middle. Knees together, toes together. So elbows are up towards the ceiling. This starts to get really quite strong in the arms as well, the backs of the arms. Slide your shoulder blades down in your back, hug your armpits. Push your heels out, squeeze your knees together, a beautiful neutral spine, clear the shoulder blades. The gap between the chin and the chest stays the same all the way through. Elbows quite close together and nicely staying the same distance all the way through. Okay, that's enough of those because this is quite a strong section. From here, we're going to reach across over to the camera side. Think about that top elbow lifting up, roll down in the centre, roll away from the camera side. Try not to let the hip that you're rolling away from, try not to let that move. Try not to let the shape of your lower back change at all. Keep those legs squeezing together. Let's take a few more, 4 more. This time bring your heels together. Squeeze your knees and your feet together. Up towards the camera. Notice if there's any change in how this feels. Pelvis should be really nice and stable and still, lower back in its natural curves. Elbows staying the same distance apart, so no opening out the elbows when you lower. Okay, we're adding on. Let's open up feet and knees to hip width apart. As you do, we're going to stay on one side, so we're going to do all of this towards the camera. As you do your abdominal curl towards the camera, we're going to do 5 of them, you're going to do a knee fold at the same time on the camera side as well. So I'm knee folding and I'm lifting exactly where I just was. This elbow is going up towards the ceiling. This knee is in a perfect knee fold position. My lower back is in its natural curves and lower. That was 1. We've got 2 and 3. Lowering 4. Be really accurate with where you place the leg. Think about pelvis. Last one. 5. Same thing with that leg, same leg knee folding, upper body twisting towards the camera. This time we're going to slide the other leg away along the floor and slide it back again. Sliding away for 5. 3 more. Pelvis stays absolutely level. Neutral lower back. Keep those elbows the same distance apart. Reaching around, I've lost count, I think that was number 5. I'm going to just slide up on that a little bit. Last one, we're going to come up for a knee fold and a leg slide. This one you're going to hold up. You're going to slide the underneath leg in, straighten the top leg up to the ceiling. And reverse for 5. And 4. And 3. Lifting up even more. And 2. Pelvis stay still. And 1. Last one. Lift, 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 lift. And lower. And collapse. Oh, I'm going to roll over to the other side just so that I can see myself on the camera. Stay where you are or roll over, it doesn't matter. Switch sides. But generally you're going to roll over it in the opposite direction now. So, elbows in, the band at the bulky part of your skull. So we're coming up, rolling over to the other side, taking the knee fold and lower down. Peeling up, reaching that top elbow up to where the ceiling and the wall meet. Thinking about pelvis staying level, lower back in its natural curves. That knee finishing above the hip, 90 degrees. Not drawing it in too far. Adding on a leg slide. I think I did an extra one there. 4 more. Otherwise everything is the same. Keep those elbows close together. It's very tempting to start to open them out. 2 more, I think. 1 more. Last set. Staying up, holding it here. Extending that top leg, sliding the underneath leg back in. Bending the top leg, sliding the underneath leg away for 5. Extend. And 4. Lift. And 3. I'm trying to come up a little bit higher. 2 more. Pelvis staying level. Lower back in its natural curves. Last one, extra lift, 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 and collapse and lower. Nothing else. That should have felt a workout on the backs of the arms. Great job. Rolling over onto your side. Perfect. To finish off this week's class, I wanted to do a nice Garuda rotation, shoulder clocks is what I call it, to sort of the same sort of feeling as that rotation spiral action that we were doing earlier on. Have a quick look. I'm going to go this way just to quickly show you. Arms are out by the side, one leg is on top. I've got my right leg on top. I'm going to roll my legs to the right a couple of times. Then I'm going to roll my legs all the way to the right. I'm going to lay on my right side. My left arm is going to sweep around the floor. I'm going to turn and look over my right shoulder. I'm going to reach that left arm forwards. It's drawing around the edge of a clock. Up above my head. When it's above my head, I look into the arm and then, or into the palm I should say. Continue letting the arm go all the way around and the legs will miraculously come back to the start. I'm going to show you one more time the other way just so that I'm even. We're going to do a couple of these, which is basically unravelling what we've just done. Roll onto your side, completely onto your side. That's right arm now starts to do the circle. I'm looking over that left shoulder, stretching this arm away, lifting up, looking into that top hand. I then tend to leave my head looking on that side so the arm is finishing off the spiral and that brings your legs back together. Okay, here we go. I am going to go here, yeah. So I'm going to put my left leg on top and describe which direction which side I'm lying on and stuff. So left leg is on top, no gap between the knees. Slightly move your hips to the right, or to, actually no, keep them in the middle. And then loll your legs to the left. And bring them back to the centre. And loll. So just let them be really relaxed. Knees are going over to one side. Don't force anything with this, keep your breathing nice and even. And then we're lying completely onto that left side. All the way on my left side. My right arm is dangling in the air. And I'm trying to bring it round so it's coming to the floor behind my body. I'm relaxing my legs completely. Circling that arm round. Sweeping it forwards, maybe looking behind you. It goes way past your other hand and then up above your head. Look into the palm of that hand, let it open out and then let the legs come back to the centre. Let's go 2 more times in that direction. Over to the left. As you start to go over, actually slide that hand around along the floor. Stretch it, turn the head, looking up, mobilise the shoulder and the spine. Last one, all the way over. You can take your arm in the other direction if you want to. It's not a problem. Just breathe, just relax, let that body go. Okay, all on the other side. So I'm putting my right leg on top. Arms are up, shoulder width apart. Just let them go all the way to the side. Notice that nice spiral. It actually feels when I'm properly concentrating, not so much when I'm teaching, it feels nice for me to let my head go in the opposite direction. So So the back of the head is nice and heavy. And then I'm going to go all the way over onto my right side. I start to sweep that left arm down straight away. It goes over my hips. I reach forwards. I just about can get my hand past here. And then up above my head, looking into the palm of that hand. I'm going to continue looking over my right shoulder, letting the arm go on its own, which feels good. I'm going to shift over a little bit so I've got a bit more room. And again, legs all the way to the right. As soon as you start to go, sweep the left hand round. You're drawing a clock round the edge of the biggest clock face. All the way, open up that shoulder. One more for luck. Rolling, stretching, lifting, looking, and unraveling that spine. Woo. Rolling over onto your side, sitting yourself up. Hopefully you enjoyed that band class. I look forward to seeing you again maybe next week. Thank you.